Sinister stories.
Fog rolled in, thick and impenetrable, as the moon cast an eerie glow on the deserted road. John, a weary traveler, had been driving for hours, hoping to reach his destination before nightfall. But now, he found himself lost in the heart of the unknown. His GPS signal had faded away along with any semblance of civilization. The road he was on seemed to twist and turn without rhyme or reason, surrounded by a dense forest that swallowed any hope of visibility. Fear gnawed at John's gut as he realized he was trapped in a labyrinth of darkness. His hands tightened around the steering wheel as he fought to keep his composure. "I just need to find a signpost, a familiar landmark," he whispered to himself, desperately seeking any indication of where he was. But the only response was the haunting echo of his own voice, bouncing off the trees. As minutes turned into hours, John's anxiety grew. The road seemed to stretch on endlessly, leading him deeper into the heart of the unknown. Each turn he took only led him further away from civilization. Panic set in, and his heart pounded in his chest, drowning out the sound of the engine. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance, standing in the middle of the road. John squinted, trying to make out the silhouette. As he got closer, a wave of dread washed over him. It was a woman, her tattered white dress billowing in the wind, her eyes hollow and devoid of life. With a trembling hand, John rolled down his window. "Excuse me, ma'am," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm lost. Can you help me find my way?" The woman didn't respond. She simply pointed down a narrow path that emerged from the darkness. "Follow me," she said in a voice that sent shivers down John's spine. Reluctantly, he obeyed, his headlights piercing the inky blackness as he followed the woman's ghostly figure. The path grew narrower and more treacherous, the trees closing in on them like gnarled claws. The air turned cold and suffocating, as if the very atmosphere was conspiring against him. After what felt like an eternity, the woman stopped abruptly, her form dissipating into thin air. John slammed on the brakes, his heart racing. He was alone once again, surrounded by an eerie silence that hung heavy in the air. Just as he was about to turn back, a haunting whisper filled the cabin of his car. "Turn back, John. Turn back before it's too late." Fear gripped his every fiber, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had come too far to give up now. Ignoring the warning, he pressed on, determined to find his way out of this nightmarish maze. The road twisted and turned, leading him deeper into a realm that felt untouched by time. Shadows danced on the periphery of his vision, and strange noises whispered through the trees. The very forest seemed to come alive, its malevolence growing with each passing moment. Suddenly, a blinding light pierced through the darkness, momentarily blinding John. As his vision cleared, he realized he was no longer on the road. His car had come to a halt at the edge of a cliff, the yawning abyss beckoning him to his doom. Panic surged through his veins as he desperately tried to reverse, but his tires spun helplessly on the loose gravel. The car teetered on the precipice, threatening to plunge into the void below. John screamed, his cries echoing through the night, but there was no one to hear him. In one final act of desperation, he threw himself out of the vehicle, rolling away just as his car plummeted into the abyss. Covered in dirt and shaken to his core, John lay on the ground, gasping for breath. As the first rays of dawn broke through the darkness, John realized he had survived the ordeal. His heart still pounding, he stumbled towards the nearest road, vowing to never venture into the unknown again. But even as he drove away, a sense of foreboding lingered, a chilling reminder that some roads are better left untraveled, and that the lost and the forgotten have a way of ensnaring those who dare to wander too far from the path of the familiar.
As the night wore on and the moon hung ominously in the starless sky, Sarah found herself driving along a desolate road that seemed to stretch endlessly into the darkness. The trees loomed overhead, casting long, eerie shadows that danced on the pavement. A sense of unease settled in her bones, but she had no choice but to continue forward. As Sarah's tired eyes strained to stay focused on the road, a flicker of movement caught her attention in the rearview mirror. She glanced back and froze in terror. A ghostly figure appeared in the back seat, pale and translucent, with hollow eyes that seemed to stare into her soul. Her heart raced and she fought to maintain control of the car. "What do you want?" she whispered, her voice trembling with fear. The ghostly woman turned her head slowly, her features contorted in anguish. A low, mournful moan filled the car as she extended a pale, trembling hand towards Sarah. Goosebumps prickled on her skin as she felt an icy gust of wind sweep through the vehicle. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to flee, to abandon the car and escape this spectral presence. But she couldn't shake the feeling that the ghost needed her help. Against her better judgment, she reached out a shaky hand towards the apparition. As their fingers made contact, a surge of emotions washed over Sarah. Glimpses of sorrow and despair flooded her mind, as if the ghost was trying to communicate something. She sensed a tragic tale of loss and longing, a restless spirit trapped between realms. With newfound determination, Sarah decided to uncover the truth behind the ghost's anguish. She continued driving, guided by an otherworldly force as the road became even more treacherous. The mist grew thicker, swirling ominously, and the air crackled with an unsettling energy. Finally, they arrived at a dilapidated house on the outskirts of town. The ghostly woman pointed towards it, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and desperation. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she stepped out of the car, a chill crawling up her spine. The old house creaked and groaned as if bearing the weight of forgotten secrets. Sarah hesitated for a moment, uncertainty gnawing at her resolve. But a determination to free the tormented spirit spurred her forward, overcoming her fear. The front door creaked open with a haunting squeal, revealing a dimly lit interior. Sarah cautiously stepped inside, the floorboards protesting beneath her weight. The air was thick with must and decay, the silence broken only by the sound of her racing heartbeat. As she explored the house, Sarah discovered remnants of a tragic past. Photographs of a family adorned the walls, their faces etched with joy and love. But the happiness captured in those frozen moments had given way to sorrow, leaving only the echoes of a shattered existence. In the darkest corner of an upstairs room, Sarah found a dusty old diary. Its pages were filled with heart-wrenching entries, detailing the anguish of a woman who had lost everything: her family, her happiness, and her life. It was the story of the very ghost who had haunted Sarah's journey. With newfound understanding, Sarah returned to the car and held the diary close to her chest. She whispered soothing words to the ghost, promising to bring her story to light, to give her the peace she so desperately craved. Days turned into weeks as Sarah tirelessly researched the family's history. She unearthed a tragic tale of a woman driven to madness by grief, her spirit forever bound to the house where her life had unraveled. Finally, armed with the truth, Sarah returned to the old house. The ghostly figure appeared once more, her eyes now filled with a glimmer of hope. With trembling hands, Sarah read aloud the story of the family's tragedy, releasing the weight of their forgotten existence into the world. As the final words echoed through the house, a soft, ethereal light enveloped the ghostly woman. A serene smile crossed her face, and she slowly faded away, her restless spirit finding peace at last. Sarah stood alone in the old house, the air heavy with the residue of the supernatural. She had fulfilled her promise, but the memory of that haunted road would forever linger in her mind, a chilling reminder of the spectral realm that exists just beyond our comprehension.